Today, we're talking about small improvements, quality of life improvements that could be made to Smite in Season 4 that don't really change anything about the game in itself, but could still be really nice and helpful for us players, increasing the gameplay experience overall while not necessarily giving you a gameplay advantage. Most of these will be pretty self-explanatory and don't really need much debate, but I see that some can be a little bit controversial. At least there will be differing opinions on them. And I totally understand that, I accept that, and I know that some of you feel that certain things should stay the same way they are at the moment, even though they might not be ideal that way. But I just wanted to point out that I'm aware of this, and I will go on with these points regardless, and if there's something you disagree with, feel free to comment on that. With that, let's get started with the first point. Quicker buff pickups. If you played the game in Season 1, then you remember how quickly you were able to pick up buffs back then. The buffs were completely differently animated. They looked a lot cheaper actually, but basically the moment you walked over the buff, you would pick it up. That was changed with the purpose of not accidentally picking up buffs, because it could easily happen that the buff was dropped, and if you were too close to it, you would pick it up despite of it actually being intended to go to whoever you were clearing the buff camp with. In my opinion, that was never much of a problem. Any smart player would step back a little bit slightly before the buff was dropped, and with that the issue was resolved. With how the buff pickups are now, you just have an unnecessary delay where you have to basically stand on the buff and wait and cannot pick it up yet. And that's just really annoying. No reason for that to be that way in my opinion, and I'd like to see that change, either being changed back or being addressed in a somewhat different way that makes it easier and more convenient. Number 2. Reveal buff camps if they have been taken as soon as you have vision. Quite often you will see that a buff camp has been taken because the minions don't appear on your screen if you walk towards the camp, but because you're not around a specific corner yet or something, the minimap won't recognize it. So you have to walk all the way into that buff camp in order to see when it's down, or rather to see when it's coming up, because otherwise the indicator will show that the buff camp is still up as you haven't actually checked it. Thing is, you have checked it. You know that the minions are not there. You can see that they're not there. So why do I have to walk all the extra steps towards that camp and walk around that corner just to make sure that I have it revealed? I see that it gives you a little bit of an advantage if it's not the case, but it doesn't make sense. It's mostly just an extra annoyance when trying to rotate around the map. That's all there really is to it. And I don't see any actual benefit in it, so I'd like to see that changed. Number 3. Even out volume for voice packs and announcer packs. I don't know why this is still a thing for so many voice packs. It's getting fixed for the Chuck announcer pack in the hotfix today actually, but there are so many voice packs and announcer packs that have uneven volume compared to others that are really quiet or really loud as well, and that's just very annoying and frustrating, and there's, once again, no real benefit in it for anyone, and it would be easy to change. Just fix up the volume a little bit, maybe adjust some filters according to it so it doesn't sound weird, and that's really it. And that's a change that wouldn't even take a lot of time, so it would be really nice to see that adjusted. Number 4 is maybe a bit nitpicky and also a little more debatable than the others, but I'm throwing it in here anyways. Less time in win and defeat screens. If you look at other games, win and defeat screens are very, very quick. In Smite, you sit there, watch the Titan fall, and then you have that animation where it slowly comes up, like victory or defeat. And I don't know why. It doesn't really help you. You know you won the game after a second. You don't need to watch it for whatever, 10 seconds. And you could just go to the post-game screen after that, right away, without any delay, and get your information on how the game went. Just a little bit of cutting time short that's not needed. In the same sense, picking phases. This is obviously more debatable, as I feel that the picking phase, especially in ranked, is too long at the moment. Yes, you could communicate with your team a lot and have like a setup strategy and all that stuff, but that hardly ever happens realistically. Most of the time, you're gonna sit there, spend a lot of time waiting for someone to finally lock their guard. That is really not necessary. If the ranked phase, the pick phase in ranked was quicker, then people would probably not do other things in the meantime and they would actually pick quickly. So that would be really nice. Number 5, health HUD. I have spoken about this a few times, and actually another kind of MOBA has implemented this. Gigantic has a health HUD where you have your health and mana left and right of your character. I don't know why it's still not the case in Smite. I will keep mentioning this until it happens, because I think it's really, really cool. I'll show you a screenshot right here of what it looks like. just so you can get an idea of what this should bring you. And I think it's especially important in Smite, because in Smite you have your health bar that covers your character, or you have the health bar at the bottom, which is not really in your peripheral vision. In other games like Paragon, the aim is offset a little bit so it doesn't block your aim, or you have the health HUD, as it is the case in Gigantic. And really, Smite is the only one that doesn't offer either of those options, and both are kinda not ideal in multiple regards. Number 6 is kinda going the same direction, more targeter options. I feel like the targeters in Smite are not necessarily bad, but they could be better. Especially the ground target is something that you can highlight, you can have this arrow that points to it, but I would like to have it in another color, for example, so it can be really highlighted even more, as I feel like on certain grounds it's just not as much in focus as it could be. Obviously, for many people the normal targeter is absolutely fine. I just feel like it could be increased in order to be more effective, especially because it allows for better play with instant cast. Number 7. Give queues an option to consider a match unsuitable. As it stands, the matchmaking system will try and find a match for you. And that means that if the match queue is long enough, you will get a match that's horrendously misplaced. It will mean that you will get a match against, for example, a pre-made of 2 diamond players against only gold players that are solo queuing, stuff like that. Or even in other game modes, you have like in Siege, where some teams even abuse that, where you have high-level players that group as 4 people for a siege and then get matched against single queue people simply because no one else is queuing for that mode. Instead of giving such unbalanced games where maybe the pub stomping side will have fun and maybe they even won't, do something about that that will tell both parties in that case, we could not find a match at this time that's appropriate for you. It would suck, obviously, but it's better to end up in another game mode where you can find a match that is halfway decent than ending up in a match that just completely is lost from the beginning and is absolutely unfun. Point 8. Give Conquest Ranked the requirement to have at least some Conquest games played. At the moment, you can just play Arena all the time and you can queue Conquest Ranked. I don't see any logic in that. Even if you were to level up a Smurf that you want to play ranked with, you could play some Conquest beforehand. The minimum requirement doesn't really have to be high. It could just be like 50 Conquest games or whatever. I don't really want to put any numbers here, but just make it so that there is a bit of a requirement for Conquest Ranked to have Conquest played before, just to prove that the people have actually played that mode a few times before jumping into the ranked experience, making it a better experience for everyone involved overall. Number 9. Recode glitched abilities. And this is specifically targeted at one in particular, but I know there are a few more that have some odd glitches. The one I'm thinking of, and I'm going to use as an example, is Naja's ultimate. As many of you may know, due to the way it currently works, there is the chance that you may use your beats and you still get pulled, or knocked up rather, into the air and banished from the field by him using his ultimate. It's kind of awkward. It's basically a thing of ping and when you are considered picked up and when he's considered in his dash and stuff like that, but it really is very inconsistent, and I don't think it is possible to fix that ability in its current state because of the way that lag works and everything, but I think it would be possible to change the whole, technicalities to it in a way that will allow it to be beated reliably. I know that some Naja players actually have used this and they will probably be against this change, but even though I like playing the character a lot, I feel like this is something that is just awkward to play around. Number 10, and that's the last one, provide more tutorial resources for newer players within the game. I'm not saying they need more tutorials, but just places to look for more information. I understand that not necessarily YouTube tutorials are the thing that will work out simply because, there could be swear words in there or anything and they couldn't really control for that, but there used to be the streamers and community highlight section in Wisdom, and that was kind of removed, and that could be filled with videos that cover the basics of Smite and how to play it better and how to play the different modes better, aside of the obvious tutorials, and that would really improve the experience for everyone overall. And those are my 10 points of things that I would like to see improved in Season 4 as small quality of life improvements that don't usually need major coding changes, but rather just would make the game feel better, as opposed to other big changes that are definitely coming that will change the gameplay in its entirety. With that, thank you guys for watching. Also, a quick reminder for those of you who are subbed to me on Twitch via Twitch Prime. If you have subbed early, right after I got my sub button, and you want to resub, then the time for that should be now. The first month is over. Hype! And with that, if you want to resub, you should probably check back. You should be able to do that a few days before your sub runs out already. So, just letting you know, in case you want that 3-month sub badge soon, that you make sure to check back on that. Duke Sloth, out.